Welcome, everyone, to the April edition of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Welcome, Archbishop.
Well, thanks, Brian. Wow, here we are getting close to Easter. It's a beautiful time of year.
Yeah, sure is. As always, we have an interesting show today. We're going to talk about a wonderful new opportunity we have coming up with what we call the Lilly Grant. We'll talk about that. We're going to get our special guest this time. Will be Father Jeff Schooner.
That'd be great.
Our vicar for priests, and many other titles you'll get a chance to talk to him about. And then we'll have your Easter message. Can you believe it's Easter time?
It's amazing.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Yeah.
Well, for this first segment, we're going to talk about the Lilly Grant, so we're going to switch roles here.
It'll be easy for us to do. Let me do a little bit of the interviewing.
Sure.
First of all, Brian, I was so excited when we got the news about the Lilly Grant. And let's begin by just saying where this came from. I know that the Lilly Grant that we just were approved for the Archdiocese is both leadership development and also what we might call fiscal or financial literacy. But tell us a little bit about where it came from. And sure. I know of your initiative.
This is very exciting, I think, for us, a new initiative. Let's go back a little history. The Lilly Endowment is a foundation based in Indianapolis. The Eli Lilly Pharmaceutical Company, the original founders, the Lilly family members, and there's still connections to them today. From their very beginning, their very faithful family, they made a decision that some portion of all of their proceeds would be turned into a foundation that would be used to support charitable works that were important to the family and eventually beyond that. And their particular focus has always been on religion, not exclusively, but one of the few foundations that has a very interest in religious development. Well, this foundation has served, dioceses and universities, many different denominations. They're not connected to the Catholic Church in a particular way, but they're always interested in how the Protestant churches they serve are similar. Right. Well, the story goes this way. They've done some research, and they did research into ministers and priests, lay ministry personnel as well. And they discovered two concerns. You mentioned them there, that there's a growing question about leadership training and financial literacy. As you've often taught us, the priesthood, we talk about to teach, govern, and sanctify. Right. This middle one, govern, is where taking care of staffing and budgeting and facilities is a real issue for all leaders. But it's not usually the area that people feel called to the most. Yeah,
and often, Brian, it involves skills of collaborating.
Right.
Doesn't it?
Right.
How did you get involved in it? Because that's an interesting
they had heard about some of our interests in these same topics, and we knew that this was being done across the river to the north in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis. So frankly, I just wrote them a letter and I said, we're interested in those same issues. We see those same questions in our diocese about leadership needs and about financial literacy needs. So they basically said, submit a grant, and we did, and we got it.
So one letter.
Yeah.
And you were able to receive $1 million.
Well, it's a few more steps than that. There was lots of meetings.
No,
we had to do local research.
But just think of the benefit that this is, because I know that you were very much involved in doing some of the research when we had the assembly at St. Meinrad last June, right?
Well, what we did is we specifically asked our priests, active and retired priests, they're all active as you often say, but our priests who are in assignments and those even not in assignments right now, and a lot of our lay ministers, and asked them, how do they see these two issues? It may come as a surprise to people. Let's just use an example. Priests, as committed as they are, and all they do for us, money or compensation wouldn't be a big part of their lives. And we have men coming into priesthood today with college debt, just like anyone else would. Through the blessings of our people, we pay for their seminary education. But if they come in with a college debt, they come out, they're ordained a priest, and out of their salary have to meet college loans, just like the rest of us. Sure. However, compensation for priests is much smaller than many people may realize. And so meeting financial debt, this is just one example, is something that the Lilly Foundation Endowment was interested in seeing how we could help people to learn how to manage debt, and in fact pay off debt.
Right. Let's look at both of these issues then. Let's look at the leadership development. What can we expect over the next couple of months?
Sure. It's a 3-year period of time, and basically the grant provides us with resources to do a number of leadership training opportunities.
Okay.
Everything from training for all priests on some of the governance issues, management issues. They don't get a lot of that in seminary. They get some, but looking at everything from boards and committees and how to work with them, to skills, work with staffs and supervision, and financial management of their churches. Similar training will be made, we do a little bit of it now, but even more for some of our lay staff members, our lay leaders in our parishes. So leadership training will be the first area. There'll be some special courses even for new pastors. Already we send new pastors to some workshops around the country. This grant will allow us to do more of that.
Yeah.
So leadership training is first.
You know, that's so good. And a lot of times people say, well, I don't have time for that. In fact, if someone gains, as you well know, because of your leadership, some skills at being able to run a meeting, participate in a meeting, have clarity of goals, it actually frees the priest, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The pastor for actually greater time to serve others.
While it's true that people often say, you know, do I have time for this? The research we did last summer here in the Archdiocese, our priests said, we want more.
Good.
They didn't say they didn't want more, but how to make it accessible to us. And we've done some, but frankly, sometimes resources open up a few more doors.
Right.
So it'll give us some new resources to
Well,
do
this grant will actually help pay for the costs for the seminar or the assembly that we're going to have at the beginning of June this year.
Exactly right, exactly right.
I love that.
It's good stuff. That's right. Me too. That's
So
good.
tell us a little
Good.
bit, it fits together, but tell us a little bit more then about the fiscal literacy.
Well, you know, frankly, it's a topic you hear about in schools and in family life around our whole country.
We use the word literacy, but what do they mean for the people when you use the phrase fiscal literacy?
Well, it's part of it is the average person really doesn't know how to manage debt.
Good.
The average person doesn't know how to do their own budgeting. Even people who budget in their job don't always translate that to their life. So there's two kinds of financial literacy they want to help us with. The grant will fund for. Helping people with personal financial literacy.
Right.
And second is organizational financial literacy.
And personal, we know people get into terrible situations where they get debt and then their money is going towards funding a debt rather than paying off a debt, isn't it? So this will help them plan better, huh?
Well, we'll be able to help priests and lay leaders with financial planners for personal, and we'll be able to help pastors and their staffs deal with some more budgeting skills. So it's going to be on both levels there. And a particularly interesting piece about it is one of the elements of the grant the endowment wanted us to include was a percentage, it's about a quarter of it, $200,000, to actually invite other Catholic people in our diocese to contribute to match that 200 and then make grants to actually pay off some of the debts and expenses of some of our pastoral leaders.
Help people get out of the hole.
Well, and because, not just because debt's a problem, because it's a weight on their ministry.
Wow.
Okay, and that's what we want to free up. So that would be that.
Brian, I think you've maybe begun to answer this, but if you were to say this is the biggest need, or these are the biggest needs that we hope to address over the next 3 years, what do you hope to see at the end of this grant?
Well, one of the fun things is, besides leadership and financial literacy, you've opened the door for a third one. Just a few weeks back, you published the pastoral letter. This pastoral letter will be something we talk about a lot over the next 3 years. The title here, Your Parish, the Body of Christ Alive in Our Midst. This image we have rolled the Lilly Grant into. And every parish in our archdiocese will be invited, with the support of the Lilly Grant, to examine and participate in parish discernment. Wow. This will be a process to think about all the goodness going on in their parish life, to listen to where God's calling them, and even perhaps listen to each other about where they can inform each other as parishioners and set some new direction for growth. Now, that's a lot of words.
But I like what you said. It emphasizes the parish. It emphasizes the fact that a parish needs to grow. If we don't grow, and my pastoral letter mentions it, we go backwards. And then to talk about resources necessary for that growth. Every parish is unique in many ways, isn't it? We have 110 parishes. So you see this as working very closely with the notion, obviously, of leadership development and then of fiscal literacy.
Well, we can improve and build the competency and confidence of our pastoral leaders through more leadership training. If we can help with financial planning and financial resources for our leaders, and we can help each of our parishes to discern their vision for growth, I think will be a continued renewal in our church.
Well, listen, people will be hearing more about this. First of all of our priests will be engaged in the process, and I know we'll be grateful for the help that you're offering. But also, this has such a great potential, Brian, as we look at a future for the Archdiocese, all 110 parishes.
Yes.
The time went quickly.
Yeah.
Let me say this, though, on behalf of the Archdiocese, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for the initiative you give. Anybody else looking at your job would say, that's enough for me to do. But you have taken the incentive and the initiative to do more. And I think we are beneficiaries of it. So thank you.
God blesses us all,
yeah,
doesn't it?
Exactly.
Right.
And thank you for listening and participating in this episode of Conversations with Archbishop Kurtz. Please stay tuned, and we're going to be welcoming Father Jeff Schooner, Vicar for Priests, at our next segment.